As I, Briareus, the Hecatoncheir, recall the memories of a bygone era, my 100 arms tremble with a mix of anger, resentment, and a hint of sadness. With Uranus overthrown, Kronos ascended to the throne, ushering in the reign of the Titans. During this era, the Titans ruled with absolute authority, each with their own domain and responsibilities. There was Oceanus, the Titan of the great earth-encircling river, Tethys, the Titaness of freshwater and the nourishing flow of rivers, Hyperion, the Titan of the divine light, and Thea, the Titaness of sight and the shining light of the clear blue sky. Each Titan played a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the universe. But the Titans' reign was not without its darkness. Shortly after their ascension, they imprisoned us, the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclopes, in the depths of Tartarus. The Titans feared our power, our unyielding fury, and our capacity for destruction. As the Titans continued to rule, a new generation emerged, born from the unions of the first-generation Titans. These second-generation Titans included Helios, Selene, and Eos, the children of Hyperion and Thea; Atlas, the Titan of endurance, daring, and the art of astronomy; Leto, the mother of Artemis and Apollo; Kronos, the leader of the Titans, had taken Rhea as his wife, but he could not shake the feeling of unease that lingered within him. For in his final moments, Uranus had spoken a prophecy that would haunt Kronos forever. "One of your own children will overthrow you just as you overthrew me." Kronos knew that he had to prevent this prophecy from coming true no matter the cost, and so he made a horrible decision. He would swallow each of his children as they were born, ensuring that the prophecy would never be fulfilled. With Rhea by his side, they had 5 children: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. But one by one they were consumed, leaving Rhea heartbroken and at her breaking point, unable to bear witnessing her husband's monstrous act any longer. When Rhea realized she was pregnant with her 6th child, a deep sense of despair washed over her. She approached her primordial parents, Gaia and Uranus, pleading for their aid. She was desperate to save her 6th child from the cruel fate that had befallen his siblings, and so they devised a plan to save the newborn child. Rhea gave birth to Zeus, her 6th child, in secret, away from the prying eyes of Kronos. With a heavy heart, she handed Zeus over to the nymphs, the nature deities on the island of Crete, who would care for him in secret. Meanwhile, Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and presented it to Kronos as if it were the newborn baby. Kronos, blinded by his own hunger for power, did not suspect a thing. He swallowed the stone, thinking it was his child. On the island of Crete, Zeus was cared for by the Curetes, armored dancers who clashed their spears and shields to drown out the cries of the infant Zeus so Kronos wouldn't hear him. He was also nursed by the goat Amalthea, who provided him with milk and comfort. As Zeus grew up, he became strong and brave, with a burning desire for revenge against his father, who had devoured his siblings. I can understand why he felt that way. I, too, had been imprisoned by Kronos and knew the pain and resentment that came with it. But Zeus's determination to save his siblings and overthrow his father was admirable. He was a true warrior, even from a young age. Zeus grew up plotting his revenge against Kronos. He knew that he had to be clever and cunning if he were to defeat his father. With the help of Metis, daughter of Oceanus, Zeus devised a plan to trick Kronos into drinking a potion that would cause him to vomit up his swallowed siblings. The day of reckoning had arrived and the plan was set in motion. Zeus would disguise himself as a servant and offer Kronos the potion, which would be a mixture of mustard and wine. The anticipation was palpable. Zeus, with a steady hand and a determined heart, offered Kronos the potion. Kronos, unaware of the deception, drank the potion, and soon the effects began to take hold. Kronos started to vomit, and out came the stone that Rhea had wrapped in swaddling clothes. Then, one by one, the siblings of Zeus emerged from the depths of Kronos' belly. Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, all were reborn. I had the privilege of meeting Zeus and his siblings, each unique and powerful in their own right. There was Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, with her gentle smile and soothing presence. Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, with her warm heart and nurturing spirit. Hera, the queen of the gods, with her regal demeanor and fierce loyalty. Poseidon, the god of the sea, with his commanding voice and unyielding determination. Hades, the god of the underworld, with his somber expression and unwavering resolve. And then, of course, there was Zeus himself, the king of the gods, with his authoritative presence and unshakable conviction. As the Olympian gods gathered on Mount Olympus, they began to build a world of their own, separate from the Titans. But why did the Olympian gods want to fight the Titans? The answer lay in the prophecy that had been foretold. One of Kronos' children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his own father, Uranus. The Titans, who had grown complacent in their power, saw the Olympian gods as a threat to their rule. They believed that by eliminating them, they could prevent the prophecy from coming true. But Zeus and his siblings were determined to challenge the Titans and claim their rightful place in the cosmos. As the war loomed on the horizon, alliances were forged and sides were taken. The Olympian gods, led by Zeus, were joined by the likes of Prometheus, the Titan who had foresight. Themis, the Titaness of divine law and order, also sided with the Olympians, recognizing Zeus's role in bringing justice and establishing order in the cosmos. And then there was Styx, the goddess of the river Styx, who brought her powerful children Nike, Kratos, Gaia, and Zeus to support Zeus. On the other side, the Titans, led by Kronos, were supported by Atlas, Hyperion, Coeus, Iapetus, and Metis. These Titans fought to maintain their power and prevent a new generation of gods from usurping them. Not all Titans, however, chose to take sides. Oceanus and Tethys, the elder Titans, remained neutral, avoiding the conflict and its destructive consequences. Mnemosyne, the Titaness of memory, also chose not to participate. The stage was set for the Great War, the Titanomachy. The battlefield stretched across the earth, with the Olympians based on Mount Olympus and the Titans stationed on Mount Othrys. The war raged on for many years, with both sides fighting fiercely, but neither able to gain a decisive advantage. The intensity of the war was like nothing I had ever seen before. The skies were filled with lightning bolts, the seas were shaken by earthquakes, and the earth was scorched by the fires of the Titans. The war was a never-ending nightmare, a cycle of violence and bloodshed that seemed to have no end. Among the many clashes, Hera faced Metis, the proud and arrogant Titan of violent anger. Their battle was a clash of sheer willpower. Hera, with her cunning and unmatched strength, deflected Metis' relentless attacks. The air crackled with energy as they exchanged blows, neither willing to yield, both pushing the limits of their powers. Not far from them, Poseidon found himself locked in combat with Hyperion, the Titan of light. Hyperion's brilliance shone like a sun on the battlefield, but Poseidon was challenging the very essence of Hyperion's radiant power. Their struggle shook the earth and churned the seas, each determined to drown the other in their element. Meanwhile, Hades clashed with Atlas, the towering titan of endurance. Atlas's strength seemed limitless, but Hades wielded the power of the underworld. Shadows crept across the battlefield as Hades summoned the forces of death itself, yet Atlas stood firm, their fight a brutal contest of endurance and control over life and death. And yet, the war remained a stalemate. 10 years passed, and the battles raged on, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. As the war dragged on, Zeus, ever the strategist, knew that the Olympians needed an edge to break the stalemate. He had heard of the power and strength of us, the Titanomachy and our brothers the Cyclopes, the mighty beings imprisoned deep within the bowels of Tartarus. He thought that maybe these ancient forces, bound in chains by Kronos, could turn the tide of the war, if only they were freed. Driven by this realization, Zeus descended to the depths of Tartarus, a place where darkness reigned, and even the gods feared to tread. The oppressive heat and endless shadows of the abyss were suffocating, but Zeus pressed on. I remember it clearly. His presence was unmistakable. Zeus descended into the heart of the prison, where chains bound my 100 arms and the Cyclopes' mighty strength. He stood before us, not with the arrogance of a jailer, but with the determination of a warrior desperate to change his fate. Titanomachy, Cyclopes, Zeus's voice thundered through the gloom. I am Zeus, son of Kronos. The Titans, your jailers, are my enemies as well. For too long they have bound you, and for too long this war has dragged on. But now I offer you freedom. Join me, and together we will bring down the Titans and end their reign. I exchanged glances with Metis and Gaia. Our hatred for the Titans had only grown over the centuries. These were the beings who had feared our power and betrayed us, casting us into Tartarus to ensure their own rule. Zeus offered us the vengeance we craved. I spoke for us all, my voice echoing in the hollow prison. We have waited long enough for this moment, Zeus. Free us from these chains, and we will fight by your side. With our 100 arms, we will strike down the Titans, and they will know our fury. Then the Cyclopes, ever the craftsmen, added their offer. Release us, Zeus, and we will forge weapons fit for gods. We will arm the Olympians with tools of such power that the Titans will fall before them. Zeus wasted no time and broke our chains. And for the first time in ages, we stood tall and free. The Cyclopes too rose, their single eyes burning with renewed purpose. True to their word, the Cyclopes got to work immediately. In the volcanic forges where the heat was so intense, even the gods would have balked. They crafted the weapons that would shape the course of the war. For Zeus, they forged the thunderbolts, each one alive with the fury of the storm, capable of tearing the very sky apart. For Poseidon, they shaped the trident, a weapon that could command the seas and shake the earth itself. And for Hades, they created the helm of darkness, which granted its wearer the power of invisibility, a deadly tool for the god of the underworld. While they worked, my brothers and I prepared for battle. With our 100 arms, we could hurl boulders larger than mountains. When the time came, we marched alongside Zeus and the Olympians, our eyes fixed on Mount Othrys, where the Titans made their stand. The moment we stepped onto the battlefield, everything changed. We unleashed our fury, raining down boulders and destruction upon the Titans. Every strike was a blow for the centuries of imprisonment and betrayal. The earth trembled beneath us, and even the mighty Titans began to falter. It wasn't just our strength. The weapons forged by the Cyclopes turned the tide of the war. Zeus's thunderbolts lit up the sky, striking the Titans with unrelenting force. Poseidon, with his trident, commanded the seas and split the earth, and Hades, unseen with his helm, moved through the battlefield like a shadow, striking terror into the hearts of our enemies. The Titans, once so confident, found themselves pushed back. The balance of power had shifted, and for the first time, victory seemed within reach. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Olympians, with our help, now had the upper hand. The final battle came swiftly. With the Olympians now possessing the upper hand, we pressed the attack on Mount Othrys, the stronghold of the Titans. Zeus unleashed a storm of thunderbolts that tore through the ranks of our enemies, while Poseidon's trident summoned earthquakes that shattered their fortresses. My brothers and I, with our 100 arms, hurled boulders and leveled mountains. The Titans, who had once ruled over us with iron fists, were now in full retreat, their once mighty forces crumbling before the onslaught. Kronos, the leader of the Titans, made one last desperate attempt to rally his forces, but it was in vain. With a single powerful thunderbolt from Zeus, Kronos was struck down, his immense form collapsing onto the battlefield. The remaining Titans, seeing their leader fall, knew their time had come to an end. One by one, they were overpowered. I saw Hyperion, Lord of the Light, brought to his knees by the combined efforts of Helios and Apollo. I watched as Oceanus, ruler of the seas, was outmatched by Poseidon's mastery of the waters. Even the mighty Atlas, who had fought valiantly, was overpowered. Zeus himself faced him in combat, and with a final thunderous strike, Atlas was brought to the ground. As the dust settled, Zeus approached me, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Briareus, you and your brothers have proven yourselves to be true allies. Your strength and power have been invaluable to us." I bowed my head, my 100 arms folding in respect. "We are honored to serve you, Zeus. We will stand by your side always." Zeus, knowing that the Titans could never again be allowed to threaten the cosmos, made a fateful decision. The Titans were bound in chains and cast into the depths of Tartarus, the very prison that had once held us, Hecatonchires. As the echoes of battle faded, Zeus approached us, his voice calm but carrying the weight of his newfound authority. "Briareus, Caudus, Gyges," he began, his tone as smooth as it was commanding. "You have fought valiantly, and the cosmos owes you its freedom. But a task remains, one that only you, with your strength and vigilance, are suited for. The Titans must be kept in Tartarus for eternity. Who better to guard them than those who know its depths best?" We exchanged glances, sensing the subtle game Zeus was playing. He spoke of honor, of duty, and of the great responsibility that only we could bear. But we knew the truth. Zeus wanted the threat of our power, far from Olympus, just as Kronos had. And yet, his offer wasn't without appeal. In Tartarus, we could ensure the Titans never rose again, could guard over the very beings who had once betrayed and imprisoned us. It was justice of a sort, and a chance to rewrite our fate. So we accepted, not because we were fooled, but because we knew that this too would be a victory. Zeus smiled as if he had won a great victory of his own. "You will be the eternal wardens of the Titans, and none shall threaten your dominion there," he declared, the deal sealed. And so we took up our post, not as prisoners but as guardians. Tartarus would remain our realm, and we would stand watch over the Titans, ensuring their chains held forever. But for the Olympians, this was not the end of suffering and war. I, Briareus, recall the day when the earth itself seemed to shudder with rage. Gaia, the primordial goddess of the earth, was seething with anger. Her fury was directed at the Olympian gods, specifically Zeus, who had imprisoned the Titans in Tartarus. But what fueled her wrath was the fact that Zeus had convinced my brothers and me, the Titanomachy, to remain in Tartarus as guardians of the Titans. Gaia believed that Zeus had tricked us, that he had manipulated us into staying in that dark, forsaken place. Her anger was palpable, and it was then that she gave birth to a monstrous being, Typhon, the child of Gaia and Tartarus. He emerged as a creature of unimaginable power, his very essence infused with the fury of the earth and the darkness of the abyss. As I stood witness to the birth of this creature, I trembled with fear. The child, Typhon, was a giant, his body a mass of twisted serpent-like limbs. His skin was a deep, burning red, and his eyes glowed like embers from the underworld. From his shoulders grew 100 heads, each one a hissing, spitting serpent, their tongues darting in and out like living flames. As Typhon grew in strength and power, Zeus began to sense the monster's presence. He could feel the earth trembling, the skies darkening, and the winds howling with a fury that seemed to match the monster's own. Zeus knew that he had to act, to confront this creature before it was too late. And so the king of the gods launched himself from Olympus, his thunderbolt at the ready. He descended upon the earth, his presence like a storm, and his eyes fixed upon the monstrous form of Typhon. The battle between Zeus and Typhon began. Typhon unleashed his full fury upon Zeus, his serpent head spitting venom and fire, his wings beating the air into a frenzy. But Zeus was not to be underestimated. He wielded his thunderbolt with precision and power, striking Typhon with bolt after bolt of lightning. The monster roared in pain and fury, his body twisting and contorting in ways that seemed impossible. I watched in awe as the battle raged on. The sound of thunder boomed through the skies, and the earth shook with the force of the combatants. It was a battle for the ages, a struggle that would determine the fate of the universe. And then, in a final, desperate bid to defeat the monster, Zeus summoned all his strength and hurled a thunderbolt of unprecedented power. The bolt struck Typhon with the force of 100 earthquakes, and the monster let out a deafening roar as he stumbled, and his serpent heads ceased their deadly dance. As Typhon lay defeated, Zeus summoned the power of the mountains to imprison the monster. The earth heeded the god's will, and Mount Etna rose above the fallen giant, sealing him beneath its stone and lava. From that day on, the rumblings of the volcano were said to be the lingering fury of Typhon, still thrashing in his prison. After the defeat of Typhon, the Olympian gods finally took their rightful place as the rulers of the earth. They gathered in the majestic throne room of Mount Olympus, where the air hummed with power and expectation. Zeus, confident in his authority, called for a division of realms among them, eager to assert his dominance and ensure that his brothers, Hades and Poseidon, remained under his influence. With a gleam of cunning in his eye, Zeus proposed a contest to decide who would rule which domain. He suggested that each god should draw lots for the realms, presenting it as a fair method to determine their destinies. However, unbeknownst to Hades and Poseidon, Zeus had already planned for the realms to unfold in his favor. By carefully arranging the lots in advance, he ensured that he would reign supreme over the heavens, while Hades was left to govern the depths of the underworld, and Poseidon was granted dominion over the turbulent oceans, a vast expanse that kept him often at bay. Thus, Zeus established a delicate balance, maintaining his rule over Olympus, while allowing his brothers to think they held power over their respective domains. The division seemed fair on the surface, but it solidified Zeus's position as the chief deity, cleverly outmaneuvering his siblings to ensure that his authority remained unchallenged. With the realms divided, the Olympians began their reign, each god taking their place in the new order of the world, while Zeus watched from his throne, satisfied with his clever deception.